Welcome to my channel. Tonight's story takes us beyond the edge of human space, into a region of the galaxy where science, emotion, and the unknown intertwine in a way no one could have predicted. It begins aboard the exploration vessel Artemis Dawn, a joint mission between humanity and the alien race known as the Lyrians, an elegant, pale-skinned species renowned for their intellect, empathy, and fragile biology. The mission's goal was simple: study a dying star cluster near the rim, chart gravitational anomalies, and establish peaceful contact with the other civilizations in the area. But deep in the engine lab of that ship, a quiet human named Dr. Ethan Cross was about to make a discovery that would change everything: about science, about the Lyrians, and about the fine line between curiosity and consequence. Ethan was the chief biochemist assigned to the Lyrian-Human Exchange Program. He had spent months working alongside Princess Aeryn, the daughter of the Lyrian High Chancellor, who served as the ship's ambassador. She was graceful, intelligent, and endlessly curious about humans, especially about their biology, which she found stubbornly resilient, as she often put it. The Lyrians were delicate, their physiology sensitive to radiation and energy shifts. But humans, as she observed, seemed to thrive where most life forms perished. That intrigued her and terrified her. One evening, during an experiment designed to stabilize Lyrian cell structures against solar radiation, Aeryn volunteered to help. The plan was to test a serum Ethan had developed using nanite-based human regeneration properties fused with Lyrian bioenergy cells. The process was experimental, unapproved, and potentially dangerous. But Aeryn insisted. "If this works," she said softly, her voice like wind through glass, "it could save my people. No more illness, no more fragility." Ethan hesitated, his hand hovering over the console. "Aeryn, human biology doesn't mix cleanly with yours. If anything goes wrong, I won't be able to fix it." She smiled faintly. "You underestimate yourself, human." The serum was supposed to be administered in microdoses, but fate, or perhaps the universe, had other plans. As Ethan activated the injector, a sudden pulse from the nearby star's magnetic field surged through the ship. The systems flickered. The serum delivery rate spiked tenfold. Ethan shouted, trying to cut power, but it was too late. Aeryn gasped, light blooming across her skin in iridescent patterns. The entire lab filled with energy, blinding, pulsing like the heartbeat of a god. When the light faded, she collapsed. Ethan rushed to her side, heart pounding, certain he had just killed the galaxy's most important envoy. But her pulse was strong, stronger than it had ever been. Slowly, she opened her eyes, and for a brief, breathless moment, Ethan forgot to breathe. The pale, fragile woman he'd known now radiated vitality. Her faint silver skin had deepened into a soft glow, her eyes brighter than before, her heartbeat steady and powerful. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I can feel everything." At first, the change seemed miraculous. The Lyrian scientists were astonished. Aeryn's strength and reflexes surpassed anything her species had known. She could walk unprotected through the radiation storms that crippled her kind. Her energy readings defied their instruments. The Council hailed it as a breakthrough. But Ethan felt the weight of guilt pressing harder each day. The serum hadn't just healed her, it had rewritten her. It had made her something in between, neither fully Lyrian nor fully human. And the deeper her transformation went, the more unpredictable her powers became. One night, while inspecting the observation deck, Aeryn's presence caused the reinforced glass to hum, her aura distorting the very energy field around the ship. "Ethan," she said softly, "what am I becoming?" He didn't answer, because he didn't know. Word of her transformation reached the Galactic Council before long. They summoned both of them to appear at the central chamber, where ambassadors of 100 species watched in cold silence. The council chair, a towering insectoid known for his disdain of humans, spoke first. "Your species," he hissed, "plays with fire and calls it progress. You have tainted royal blood with human defiance. This is an act of biological heresy." Ethan stood his ground. "You call it heresy. I call it survival." The chamber erupted in argument. Some believed the experiment had violated natural law. Others whispered in awe because for the first time in history, Illyrian's fragile limitations had been broken. As the council deliberated, something else was happening. Aeryn began hearing voices, echoes from the void, whispers in languages no one recognized. The serum had awakened something ancient within her, something that had slept in Lyrian DNA for eons. When she finally confessed this to Ethan, his blood ran cold. "I can feel the stars calling," she said, her voice distant. "They're alive, Ethan. And they remember us." He tried to reason with her, to analyze the readings, to ground her in science. But what she was describing was beyond reason. Her energy readings matched no known source. She had become a living conduit, resonating with the very fabric of space itself. Then came the signal. Deep within the void near the dead system of Vareth 9, the sensors picked up an anomaly, an object of impossible scale. It wasn't a star. It wasn't a planet. It was something else. Something old. The council, desperate for control, dispatched a fleet to investigate, forcing Ethan and Aeryn to accompany them. As the ships neared the anomaly, every sensor failed, every system faltered. And from the darkness, a shape emerged. A colossal structure, half machine, half organic, pulsing faintly with the same frequency as Aeryn's body. She doubled over in pain as the fleet's lights illuminated the surface. Ethan froze. "It's human," he whispered. The ship, no, the relic, was marked with ancient Terran symbols, its hull battered by millennia. The legends were true. Humanity had reached the stars long before recorded history. And Aeryn, through his accident, had somehow reawakened their forgotten creation. The relic spoke. Not in words, but in pulses of energy that resonated through every ship. The Council's armada disintegrated as their systems overloaded. Aeryn stood at the viewport, her eyes glowing. "They built it to protect us," she said softly. "To protect the galaxy. But it's been waiting for me to wake it." Ethan gripped her arm. "Aeryn, it's not you it's calling. It's the part of you that's human." She turned to him, tears in her eyes. "Then it's both of us." As the relic came to life, it unleashed a wave of energy that spread across systems, reviving dormant human outposts, reactivating forgotten machines buried beneath alien worlds. The galaxy watched in terror and awe as humanity's lost legacy began to rise again. Not as conquerors, but as guardians returning from silence. Aeryn became the key to unlocking it all, the bridge between species, the living proof that humanity's greatest mistake could also be its greatest gift. When the storm ended, the Council's arrogance was shattered. Aeryn, now standing between both worlds, spoke before them one last time. "You feared humanity because they refused to bow," she said. "But what you fear is what you need most. Their courage, their hope, their will to begin again." Ethan stood beside her, silent but proud. He hadn't created a monster. He had created a miracle. And in the centuries that followed, the story of the human scientist and the alien princess who became something more than either race could imagine spread through the stars. It became a tale not of accident but of evolution, of two hearts, two worlds, and one mistake that taught the galaxy what it truly meant to be alive. If you enjoyed this story and believe that humanity's courage and compassion can transform even the darkest corners of the galaxy, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment sharing your favorite moment, and subscribe for more cinematic HFY stories, where the spirit of humanity always finds a way to shine among the stars. The following days aboard the Artemis Dawn were a blur of disbelief, fear, and scientific obsession. The ship's medbay glowed with soft blue light as Princess Aeryn slept under observation, her vital signs fluctuating wildly between Lyrian and human norms. Ethan hadn't slept in almost 40 hours. His eyes burned from exhaustion, his mind spinning in circles trying to understand what he had done. The data didn't make sense. Her DNA had merged with the human nanites far beyond his theoretical limits, rewriting her cellular structure in ways that defied biology itself. She was healing faster, thinking faster, sensing things that weren't even measurable. But what haunted him most wasn't the science. It was the way she looked at him when she awoke, as if she was seeing him for the first time. When Aeryn finally opened her eyes, the air in the medbay seemed to hum. Ethan froze mid-step, a datapad trembling in his hand. Her voice was softer than before, but steadier, her silver irises now shimmering faintly gold at the edges. "Ethan, I heard you calling to me," she said, her tone calm but uncertain. He blinked. "I wasn't calling you." She smiled faintly, though her eyes betrayed confusion. "Not with words. You were afraid. I felt it." He tried to answer, but his throat went dry. What she was describing was impossible, some kind of empathic resonance. Yet when he ran a neural scan, her brain activity glowed with human patterns interwoven through Lyrian frequencies, something no machine had ever recorded. She wasn't lying. Somehow they were connected. Over the next few days, her condition continued to evolve. Every test, every scan pushed the limits of known science. Her blood produced microcurrents of energy. Her skin could shift temperature to match the environment. And her senses, she could detect the pulse of power conduits across entire decks, or sense approaching crew members before they entered the room. "You've made me more than Lyrian," she said one evening, her expression torn between wonder and fear. "You've made me something else." Ethan stared at her, guilt written in every line of his face. "It was an accident," he said quietly. "I wasn't trying to change you." She smiled, though her eyes shimmered with sadness. "I know, but perhaps the universe was." Soon, the rest of the crew noticed her transformation. Some admired her newfound strength. Others whispered that she was cursed. Lyrians were a race built on perfection and purity. Any deviation from their natural form was seen as corruption. The Lyrian officers began to avoid her, their gazes filled with unease. Aeryn felt the weight of their fear like a shadow pressing on her chest. She withdrew to her quarters, and Ethan, unable to stand the sight of her isolation, began visiting her every night. They spoke for hours about Earth, about humanity's resilience, about how her people had once believed they were gods while humans crawled through the mud of their primitive world. "Maybe that's the difference," Ethan said one night. "You were born perfect. We were born broken. But we learned how to fix ourselves." She turned to him, eyes glistening. "And in doing so, you learned how to become more than perfect." It wasn't long before the Galactic Council learned of the incident. A transmission arrived, cold and formal, summoning both of them to the capital world of Lysara to explain their violation of bioethical law. The moment Aeryn read the message, she went pale. "They will not forgive this," she said quietly. "They see me as a threat now." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then I'll take the blame. I started this." She shook her head. "They won't stop at you, Ethan. The Council fears what they can't control. And they can't control us." The journey to Lysara was filled with silence. The closer they came to the Council's homeworld, the more anxious the crew grew. Council law was absolute. Tampering with sentient biology was considered a universal crime, punishable by exile or execution. Yet Ethan refused to back down. "If they want answers, I'll give them the truth," he told his captain. "We didn't create a weapon. We found hope." The captain, a grizzled veteran of human diplomacy, shook his head. "Hope is the last thing the Council wants from humanity, son. They prefer us predictable and weak." When they finally arrived, the sight of Lysara was overwhelming. A world of marble and light. Its cities floated among golden clouds, each tower built from living crystal that resonated like music. But beneath its beauty lay fear. The council chamber was a colossal dome of translucent stone, where the representatives of 100 species sat in tiered rows, their eyes fixed on the two figures standing in the center. Ethan and Aeryn stood side by side, her silver and gold skin glowing faintly in the soft light. The chair of the council, an ancient, multi-eyed being named Vor, spoke first. "Human," he hissed, his voice echoing. "Do you understand what you've done? You've defied the natural laws of life itself. You've polluted the bloodline of an ancient species." Ethan lifted his head, meeting the creature's gaze without flinching. "I saved her life," he said simply. "And if that's a crime, then maybe your laws need rewriting." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Vor leaned forward, You dare speak of rewriting what the galaxy has honored for millennia? Aeryn stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. I was dying, Chancellor. This human gave me life, not with conquest or arrogance, but with compassion. If the laws you honor deny life, then they are no laws worth keeping. The chamber erupted into chaos. Half the delegates shouted in outrage. Others sat in stunned silence. Ethan and Aeryn were escorted out by armed guards while the council debated their fate. In the corridors outside, she turned to him. They'll never forgive us, she said. You've defied everything they built their power upon. Ethan exhaled slowly. Then maybe it's time someone did. That night, confined to their quarters under guard, they sat together in the dim light of the alien stars. Do you regret it? Ethan asked. Aeryn looked at him for a long time, then smiled softly. How can I regret being alive? She reached out, her hand trembling slightly as it touched his. You don't understand, Ethan. The Lyrians see perfection as stillness, unchanging, unfeeling. But when you touched my hand in that lab, I realized how wrong we've been. You humans, you feel everything. Even your mistakes have meaning. As the days passed, tension grew in the capital. Protests erupted across the city, some calling for their execution, others demanding freedom from the council's rule. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time, the idea of humanity's defiance was spreading like wildfire. The council, desperate to maintain control, voted for a closed trial. But before the sentence could be passed, something extraordinary happened. At dawn, the skies over Lasara turned crimson. A pulse of light rippled through the clouds, and suddenly, every energy system on the planet failed. Ships fell from orbit, communications went silent, and the council dome trembled as a deep hum filled the air. Aeryn fell to her knees, clutching her chest, her body glowing brighter than ever before. It's calling to me, she whispered, her voice shaking. Ethan caught her as the floor vibrated beneath them. What's calling you? The stars, she breathed. They're awake. Through the translucent ceiling of the chamber, the counselors saw it. Something vast and ancient moving beyond the planet's orbit. A shape emerging from the void. It wasn't natural. It wasn't alien. It was something else. A colossal human warship, its hull covered in markings older than any known language, had appeared out of the darkness. Its engines made no sound, its movement impossible to track. The legends whispered in the outer rim that humanity had once ruled the stars before vanishing. Suddenly didn't seem like myth anymore. Ethan stared at the sight, his heart pounding. That's not one of ours, he whispered. It's too old, too advanced. Aeryn's eyes glowed brighter. It's answering my pulse, she said in awe. Whatever you changed in me, it woke them. And as the massive vessel turned its ancient gaze toward Lasara, the council realized too late that the age of their control was over. The galaxy's forgotten creators had just come home. The sky above Lasara burned with a light that had not been seen in 10,000 years. The vast structure that had emerged from the void hung silently over the planet, eclipsing the twin suns with its sheer immensity. The Galactic Council's fleets, hovering in orbit, tried to scan it, but every frequency failed, every sensor overloaded, every computer returned the same impossible reading, human origin unknown. The creature-like design of the ship was unlike anything modern engineering could explain. Its hull pulsed with a living metallic glow, and ancient Terran insignias, forgotten symbols of the first spacefaring age, shimmered faintly across its surface like ghostly runes. Some of the Council's commanders panicked, ordering their ships to fall back, but others opened fire, driven by fear. Beams of plasma and ion fire lanced across the void, and vanished the moment they touched the ship. It absorbed the energy like water taking in rain. The silence that followed was heavier than war itself. Then came the sound, a low, resonant hum that rippled through the entire planet like a heartbeat. In the council chamber, the floor trembled. The delegates screamed for evacuation, but Aeryn stood perfectly still, her eyes glowing brighter, her veins alight with golden light. Ethan rushed to her side. Aeryn, what's happening? She pressed a trembling hand to her chest. It's alive, she whispered. That ship, it's not a weapon. It's remembering. The guards tried to pull them away, but the air around her crackled with energy, forcing everyone to step back. Her voice deepened, layered with echoes that weren't her own. They called it the Ark of Genesis. The first humans built it when the stars were still young. It was their last gift, to guide the lost when darkness returned. Ethan could barely breathe. How do you know that? Her gaze turned toward him, but her eyes no longer looked human or Lyrian. Because it's speaking through me, she said softly. Your serum didn't just change me. It woke something ancient in both of us. The chamber's walls vibrated as a massive transmission echoed across the system. A voice that transcended language. It wasn't male or female. It was something in between, calm and eternal. Children of the stars, it said. You who have forgotten your beginning. Why do you fight among yourselves when you were born of one spark? The council delegates fell to their knees, unable to move, overwhelmed by the sound that wasn't sound at all but pure consciousness. The Ark, if that was what it was, projected beams of light across space. Worlds light years away received the same message. The galaxy had become a cathedral, and humanity's voice was the sermon. Ethan watched the displays light up across the council's consoles. Star systems that had never answered the council's calls were responding now, all broadcasting the same signal. It's linking them, Ethan said, his voice shaking. It's connecting every species, every world. Aeryn nodded slowly. It's restoring the network the ancients built, before war tore it apart. But not everyone saw it as salvation. Chancellor Vor rose from the floor, fury twisting his alien features. This is human deceit, he spat. You brought your dead gods to enslave us again. He turned to the guards. Destroy them both. But before the soldiers could fire, the floor beneath the chamber pulsed. Energy burst upward, sending the guards flying. Vor screamed as his body was lifted into the air, disintegrating in a shimmer of golden particles. The Ark had answered his defiance. Aeryn turned to Ethan, her voice trembling. It knows who they are. The ones who built the council. They weren't protecting peace. They were hiding the truth. Outside, chaos consumed the skies. Entire council fleets tried to flee, their ships colliding as the Ark's gravitational field pulled them into a slow orbit. Yet none were destroyed. Instead, each vessel's systems were overridden. The ship's AI screens flickered to life with a single line of text. Stand down. The war is over. Every weapon went dark. Every missile froze in its bay. Even the most advanced war engines became silent as the Ark's control extended across the system. Humanity's lost creation had just disarmed the galaxy. Ethan and Aeryn were transported upward in a column of light. When their vision cleared, they stood within the Ark itself. A vast chamber filled with floating lights and holographic figures that flickered like memories. The air smelled faintly metallic, ancient. Where are we? Ethan whispered. A voice answered from all around them. You stand within the heart of what your kind left behind. The last memory of Earth before the burning. The burning? Ethan asked. You mean the fall? The voice hummed. Your ancestors reached too far. They created life that could rival gods. And when the stars turned against them, they sent us to sleep, to wait until humanity returned, not as conquerors, but as guardians once more. Aeryn stepped forward, her light dimming slightly. And you think I'm one of them? I'm not human. The voice replied gently. You carry their echo. And his mistake, it said, referring to Ethan, completed the bridge. You are not one or the other, you are the union. The balance that must exist if life is to continue. Ethan turned slowly toward her, the truth dawning in his eyes. That's why the serum reacted that way. It wasn't an accident. It was a key. She looked back at him, tears shimmering in her glowing eyes. And we turned it. The Ark shifted around them, its walls transforming into vast star maps, showing thousands of systems under the Council's rule. One by one, the holographic worlds turned gold, the sign of liberation. The chains are broken, the voice said, but freedom requires memory. In the center of the chamber, a figure formed. A human, ancient and robed, his eyes hollow but kind. "I am the last sentinel of Earth," it said. "And you, Dr. Ethan Cross, are our proof that the spirit of humanity endures. Through war, through exile, through silence." He turned to Aeryn. "And you, Aeryn Vallon, are the proof that they can still love beyond their limits." The air shimmered as their surroundings faded back into the ship. The Ark descended toward Lysara's surface, not as a weapon but as a beacon. Its energy pulsed across the atmosphere, healing damaged ecosystems, purifying oceans, and restoring the dying biospheres that centuries of exploitation had ravaged. On the planet below, people, human, Lyrian, and countless other races, looked to the skies as light fell like rain, carrying warmth and life instead of destruction. Ethan watched in awe. "It's rewriting the worlds," he said softly. Aeryn nodded, her hand trembling as it reached for his. "It's giving them a second chance. All of us." But even as the light spread, Ethan's face hardened. "The Council won't stop here. There are others, leaders who won't give up control." Aeryn met his gaze, her eyes calm but fierce. "Then we'll show them a different kind of power. Not the kind that conquers, but the kind that forgives." The next day, the Galactic Council formally dissolved. In its place rose the Unity Accord, an interstellar coalition founded not on domination, but mutual survival. The Ark became its heart, orbiting peacefully above Lysara as a symbol of renewal. Humanity was no longer the myth whispered in fear. It was the foundation upon which the new galaxy would stand. That night, on the observation deck of the Artemis Dawn, Ethan and Aeryn stood side by side, watching the Ark's light shimmer across the stars. "I used to think humanity's greatest gift was its intelligence," he said quietly. "Now I think it's something else." She smiled faintly. "What's that?" "The ability to make mistakes that still save the world." She laughed softly, her voice like music. "Then you've done your part well, Ethan Cross." As the ship drifted silently past the glowing Ark, the stars reflected in Aeryn's golden eyes. "Do you ever wonder what the old humans were like?" she asked. He smiled. "Every day." She turned to him, her expression warm. "Then maybe we'll show the galaxy what they truly were, what we are. Not gods, not monsters, just people who refuse to stop trying." And somewhere in the distance, the ancient ship pulsed once, as if in agreement. The Ark of Genesis hovered above Lysara like a new sun, its light spilling across the world in gold and silver hues, its hum soft yet powerful, resonating in the bones of every living creature below. For days, the skies glowed. The oceans shimmered with strange currents. The forests grew thicker, and old wounds, both planetary and personal, began to heal. Across the galaxy, fleets stood down. Soldiers laid down their weapons, and old enemies found themselves staring in awe at the miracle unfolding before them. Yet amid the wonder, there was unease. Peace had come suddenly, unnaturally, and in every shadowed council hall and hidden base, those who had built their lives upon war whispered of rebellion. Ethan Reeves stood aboard the Artemis Dawn, watching the transformation unfold from orbit. The Ark's light reflected in his eyes, its rhythm pulsing in time with his heartbeat. He had been hailed as a savior, though he never wanted the title. Around him, screens displayed messages from every corner of the Accord, worlds asking for guidance, lost colonies begging for connection, alien species wanting answers about humanity's return. Eos, the ship's AI, materialized beside him, her digital form flickering faintly. "You've become what they call a legend now," she said quietly. "A myth with a face." He gave a tired smile. "Then the galaxy really must be desperate." Below them, Princess Aeryn Vallon, now Chancellor of the Unity Accord, addressed billions. Her voice was transmitted through the Ark's networks to every system, translated into every known tongue. "For millennia," she said, "the galaxy believed peace meant obedience, that order could only come from control. But humanity showed us another way, the courage to choose, to fail, to rebuild. We were wrong to fear them. They were never destroyers. They were reminders." Her golden eyes shimmered as she looked to the stars. "Now we carry that reminder in all of us. We will no longer serve fear. We will serve life." The speech ignited hope across the stars, but hope is fragile. Not everyone believed in this new order. In the dark corners of space, the remnants of the old Galactic Council gathered, the admirals, the warlords, the ones who had lost everything when the Ark appeared. They called themselves the Restoration. Their leader, a cold and calculating creature named Kael'thar, watched the broadcast from a fortress carved into a dead moon. "Look at them," he hissed, "worshipping the humans as gods. This is how it begins again. First awe, then submission." His second-in-command, a scarred reptilian veteran, growled, "We cannot fight the Arkansas. His power is beyond understanding." Kael'thar smiled thinly. "Power always has a source. Find it, and when we do, we'll burn their peace to ashes." Meanwhile, aboard the Artemis Dawn, Ethan studied the readings from the Ark obsessively. Its energy output defied physics. It wasn't just generating power. It was rewriting space itself. The Ark had repaired planetary atmospheres and healed star systems, but its core readings were changing, slowly increasing beyond predicted thresholds. It was alive. "It's growing," he murmured. Eos frowned, her tone edged with worry. "If it keeps expanding its energy field at this rate, it'll destabilize the system's gravity. It's not supposed to do this." Ethan's brow furrowed. Unless something or someone is influencing it. He didn't have to think long to know who that was. Aeryn had changed again. The same energy that once saved her was now deepening, spreading through her like fire beneath her skin. Her connection to the Ark had strengthened since the awakening. She could sense it across galaxies, feel its pulse as if it were part of her own body. At first, it felt like a gift, knowledge, emotion, understanding flowing through her veins. But now it frightened her. At night, she heard voices in her mind, ancient whispers calling her name, speaking in fragments she didn't understand. "You are the bridge," they said. "You are the last link." When she told Ethan, his face grew pale. "It's talking to you directly?" She nodded, trembling. "Not just talking, it's showing me things. Worlds we've never seen. Stars that no longer exist. And people." "People?" he asked. Her voice was soft, but her eyes were wide with fear. "Humans, but not from our time. They're wearing old Terran symbols, the same as the ones on the Arkansas. They're alive, Ethan. Somewhere out there." That revelation changed everything. Humanity's ancient progenitors, the architects of the Ark, had not vanished completely. Somewhere in the unexplored reaches of the void, remnants of the first Terran civilization still existed. Or worse, had been waiting. Ethan stared at the data, his mind racing. If they're alive, then they might still be linked to it. The Ark could be responding to them. He leaned closer to the console. "Eos, plot every gravitational anomaly matching these coordinates. We're going to find where this signal leads." Aeryn's expression softened. "You mean we?" Their journey took them to the edge of known space, where starlight faded into shadow. The void beyond was silent, an endless expanse of darkness that no ship dared enter. The Ark signal grew stronger there, pulsing faster, deeper. And then they saw it, an enormous rift in space itself, glowing faintly like a wound in reality. "It's a wormhole," Ethan whispered, "older than anything I've seen. The Ark's energy is leaking from it." The ship trembled as gravitational waves surged against its hull. Eos warned, "Crossing it may be irreversible." Aeryn looked at Ethan. "Since when has that ever stopped you?" They entered the rift. The darkness swallowed them whole. The stars vanished, replaced by shifting lights and ghostly echoes. Then, as if passing through a mirror, they emerged into a different sky, a region of space filled with debris, old satellites, and wreckage bearing symbols of humanity's earliest age. And at the center of it all was another Arkansas, smaller, cracked, and dying, but still alive. "My God," Ethan breathed. There were more of them. The smaller Ark pulsed weakly, its lights flickering like a heartbeat fading to nothing. Aeryn pressed her hand to the viewport. "It's dying," she whispered. "It's calling for help." Ethan hesitated. "If we link it to ours, we might overload both. Or we might save them," she countered. Before he could respond, she reached out through her connection, her energy merging with the dying Ark's signal. The ship groaned, lights flashing, the bridge shaking violently. "Aeryn, stop!" Ethan shouted, but she didn't. Her eyes blazed gold, her voice rising in agony as energy poured from her into the rift. "They're still alive," she cried. "I can see them." And then, for a brief instant, Ethan saw it too. A world beyond the stars, filled with towering cities and oceans of glass, where humans walked beside beings of light. It was beautiful, and it was gone in a blink. The connection shattered. The dying Ark went silent, disintegrating into dust that scattered through the void. The Artemis Dawn stabilized, and Aeryn collapsed, unconscious. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin was pale, her light dimmed. "Aeryn?" he whispered, panic breaking through his calm facade. "Stay with me." She stirred faintly, her voice barely audible. "They're not gone, Ethan. They're waiting for us. Waiting to return." When they came back through the rift, the galaxy had changed again. The restoration had struck while they were gone. Dozens of worlds had fallen, old fleets resurrected, and the Accord was in chaos. The Ark still hovered above Lasara, but its light had dimmed, flickering as though mourning its lost twin. Aeryn awoke days later, her energy unstable, her connection to the Ark fading in and out. "They're trying to shut it down," she whispered. "Kaeldar and the others. They found a way to drain its core." Ethan stared at her, realization dawning. "Then they found what we were looking for, the source." She nodded, her eyes burning faintly gold again. "If they destroy it, the Ark dies, and so does the peace we built." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we end it. For good this time." As the Artemis Dawn prepared for war once again, the Ark above Lasara pulsed faintly, as if awakening from slumber. Across the galaxy, humanity's forgotten legacy began to stir. And for the first time since its reemergence, the Ark spoke again. Not in words, but in a single thought that echoed through every star system, every ship, and every soul. "The light endures." The void before the Artemis Dawn shimmered like liquid glass, rippling with faint echoes of energy that hummed in harmony with the ship's engines. The once quiet galaxy now stood at the edge of another war, one that would decide whether the miracle of peace humanity had sparked would endure or collapse back into chaos. Ethan stood at the command console, the pale blue light from the Ark's signal flickering across his face. His eyes were tired, but sharp. "They've made their move," he murmured, scanning the feed from the outer systems. Reports poured in, Council remnants seizing control of communication beacons, sabotaging Accord fleets, and spreading fear across the colonies. The restoration wasn't just rebelling, they were poisoning the idea of unity itself. Eos's holographic form flickered beside him. "The Restoration's fleet has taken position near the Verith Nebula. They've built a fortress around a singularity, an artificial black hole." Ethan frowned, his fingers tapping against the console. "A black hole. They're using it to drain power. They've figured out how to siphon the Ark's energy across the network." He leaned forward, voice hardening. "If they succeed, they won't just destroy the Ark. They'll collapse every linked system in the Accord." Eos hesitated. "Aeryn won't survive that. Her life is tied to the Ark now." At that moment, the door opened. Aeryn entered, wrapped in a faint shimmer of gold light. Her face was pale, but her eyes still burned with quiet strength. "Then we don't give them the chance." She walked slowly toward the viewing window, the stars reflecting in her golden irises. "This is what they wanted all along, to prove that humanity's return was a curse, that peace was an illusion. If we let them win, everything we've built dies with us." Ethan turned to her, seeing the weight she carried. "Both as leader of the Accord and as the living conduit of the Arkansas, you're not ready for this," he said softly. "The Ark's energy is unstable. Every time you use it, it drains you." She smiled faintly. "Then I'll just have to make it count." The Artemis Dawn descended through the outer edges of the Verith Nebula. The clouds of gas shimmered in shades of crimson and violet, the air thick with static. Lightning arced between massive debris fields, the remnants of forgotten wars. In the distance, they saw it. A fortress built into the event horizon of a swirling black hole, its towers shaped like claws grasping at the void. Dozens of warships orbited it, each marked with the insignia of the old council. Eos's voice broke the silence. The energy readings are massive. They've already started the drain. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we end it now. The battle began without warning. The Restoration fleet opened fire, their plasma beams slicing through the darkness. The Artemis Dawn shook violently as explosions rippled across its shields. Evasive pattern Delta, Ethan shouted, gripping the command rail. Eos, divert auxiliary power to the forward cannons. The ship roared as its weapons flared to life, streaks of golden plasma tearing through enemy lines. One by one, the hostile ships fell, but more poured in to replace them. There's too many, a pilot yelled. They're drawing power from the singularity. Aeryn stepped forward, placing her hand on the console. The ship's systems immediately surged, the lights dimming as her energy flowed into the reactors. You can't, Ethan shouted, but she only closed her eyes. Trust me. The ship's hull began to glow with the same golden light that burned within her. The Artemis Dawn moved like a living thing, its movements fluid and precise, weaving through enemy fire as if guided by instinct. Every blast it fired cut through ships that once would have taken fleets to destroy. For a moment, it looked as though victory was possible. But then the fortress awakened. A deep vibration shook the entire nebula as massive energy conduits extended from its spires, locking onto the Ark's signal across the galaxy. The black hole flared with impossible brightness, twisting the surrounding space. They're using the singularity to reverse the Ark's network, Eos warned. They'll collapse the link between every world. The view outside turned into chaos. Planets flickered out of communication, stars dimmed, and the light of the Ark over Lysara began to fade. Ethan felt the world spinning beneath him. If they shut it down, it'll tear the Accord apart. He looked at Aeryn, desperation in his eyes. There has to be another way. She was silent for a moment, her gaze fixed on the black hole. There is, she said finally. But it'll mean severing my connection to the Arkansas. He froze. If you do that, I know, she interrupted softly. But if I don't, the galaxy dies. The decision weighed heavy in the silence that followed. She stepped closer to him, her voice trembling slightly. When you changed me, I thought it was a curse. I was angry at you, at humanity, at fate. But now I see it wasn't a mistake. You gave me something my people never understood, the power to choose. Her hand brushed against his cheek, her touch warm and faintly electric. So let me choose this. Ethan shook his head, his throat tight. Aeryn, if you do this, I'll finish what we started, she whispered. The ship dove toward the fortress, weaving through collapsing fields of gravity and burning debris. All power to the main drive, Ethan shouted. The engines screamed, the hull groaning under the strain. As they neared the singularity, Aeryn stepped into the energy core, her form surrounded by golden light. Ethan could only watch through the glass as the glow around her intensified, her body almost translucent. She looked back one last time. Tell them humanity was right, she said, her voice barely audible. We endure. Then she reached out, merging her energy with the singularity's flow. The entire nebula erupted in light. The fortress shattered, its towers disintegrating into molten fragments. The black hole pulsed once, then collapsed in on itself, sending a shockwave through space. Ethan was thrown to the floor as the ship spun out of control. Eos screamed through static. She's gone. The link. She's cut the link. Silence. When the light faded, the battlefield was empty. The Restoration fleet was gone, erased in the collapse. The Artemis Dawn drifted among the debris, its systems flickering weakly. Ethan dragged himself to his feet, his body shaking. Aeryn? He whispered into the calm nothing. He stumbled to the viewport, staring into the void where the singularity had been. All that remained was a faint, golden shimmer, the same light that once burned in her eyes. Days passed before they returned to Lysara. The ark's glow had returned, brighter than ever, but its voice was silent. The galaxy mourned its savior, the woman who had united two species and reignited the light of creation. Ethan stood before the council ruins, now rebuilt as a monument. He placed his hand against the stone and whispered, "You didn't just save them, you saved me." That night, as he stood beneath the stars, the ark pulsed once. A soft, golden beam descended from its surface, surrounding him in warmth. A voice echoed faintly in his mind, her voice. "Ethan, I told you, we endure." He smiled through his tears, looking to the sky where the ark drifted peacefully. "Always," he whispered, and somewhere, beyond time and distance, in the endless sea of stars, a golden light flickered strong, steady, alive. The days that followed Aeryn's sacrifice became the beginning of a new era, and yet, for Ethan, they felt like the longest and loneliest in all of human history. The Ark of Genesis now hung in silent orbit above Lasara, its golden light bathing the planet in endless dawn. The people of the Accord called it the Guardian Star, the eternal symbol of peace between species. Worlds that once waged war now rebuilt side by side. Old enemies shared food and air, and the name Aeryn Valen became legend. Statues rose in her honor across hundreds of systems, each one capturing her in that moment before the final light. Eyes glowing, hand extended toward the stars. But for Ethan Reeves, those images were only shadows. He had seen her truly, alive, laughing, teasing, brilliant. And every night, when he closed his eyes, he still heard her voice in the hum of the engines, in the rhythm of his heartbeat, whispering, "We endure." He stayed aboard the Artemis Dawn, now refitted as an exploration vessel under the new Unity Accord. The galaxy had changed since the Restoration's fall. The Council's archives had been opened, revealing centuries of hidden crimes. Worlds enslaved, histories erased, entire species silenced. Humanity, once viewed as the galaxy's greatest danger, was now seen as its conscience. Still, peace was fragile. The scars of war lingered, and rumors spread of new threats emerging in the dark between stars. The Ark's presence kept order, but it also raised fear. Its power was beyond understanding, and many whispered that one day it might awaken again, and that when it did, the galaxy would either ascend or burn. Ethan spent his days studying the Ark's new energy patterns. It no longer pulsed in the same rhythm as before. The signals were slower, deeper, like a heart in hibernation. "It's resting," he said softly one night, leaning over the console. Eos flickered to life beside him, her voice calm but curious. "Or waiting," she said. He looked up at her. "Waiting for what?" The AI tilted her head. "You already know." He sighed, rubbing his temples. Aeryn. He'd tried to move on. He'd even led missions to rebuild lost colonies, guided new scientists into understanding the Ark's teachings. But every discovery brought him back to her. She wasn't gone. Not completely. Every system connected to the Ark carried fragments of her neural signature, faint and distant, like a heartbeat echoing through space. Some nights, when the ship drifted near the Ark, the comms would flicker with static, and a voice would break through for just an instant. A soft whisper that sent chills through his spine. "Ethan." For months, he dismissed it as a malfunction. But one night, when the ship was alone above Lasara's northern pole, the signal returned, stronger, clearer, and filled with warmth. "You still don't sleep," the voice said. His breath caught in his throat. The sound wasn't digital. It wasn't artificial. It was her. "Aeryn?" he whispered. The lights in the chamber dimmed, and for a moment, her image appeared, golden, translucent, as if she were made of starlight. "You always said science could explain everything," she teased, that same soft humor in her tone. He stepped forward, trembling. "I saw you die. I saw the light take you." She smiled faintly. "You saw me change." He reached out, but his hand passed through her. "Are you alive?" Her expression softened. "Not as I was. When I merged with the singularity, I became part of the Ark's core. My body ended, but my consciousness, our connection, remained. I can't return, Ethan, but I can still see what you see." I can still feel what you feel. Tears welled in his eyes. You're part of it now, he whispered. Part of everything. She nodded. That was always the point, wasn't it? Humanity and Lyrians weren't meant to stay apart. We were meant to become something new. He wanted to speak, but words failed him. Instead, he just stood there, letting her voice fill the silence. You once told me, she said softly, that humanity's strength came from its mistakes. Maybe this was mine, to think peace would come easily. The galaxy still struggles, Ethan. The old hunger is returning. Power, greed, fear. They're waking again. Her image flickered slightly, the golden shimmer dimming. They'll come for the Arkansas. They'll try to control it. He clenched his fists. Then I'll stop them. For you. She smiled sadly. No, Ethan. For them. For everyone. The image faded, leaving only the hum of the ship. He stood there for a long time, staring at the empty air where she'd been. Then he turned toward the viewport, watching the arc glow against the black sea of space. For everyone, he repeated quietly. Weeks later, his words were tested. A coded distress signal reached the Accord, a massive fleet approaching from the uncharted Perseid fringe, carrying weapons far beyond anything known. The message was simple. Surrender the Ark or burn. The Accord's leadership panicked. The new governments had no army strong enough to fight such a force. All eyes turned to Ethan. You awakened it once, they told him. You're the only one who can do it again. Reluctantly, he returned to the Arkansas. Its surface was smooth and silent as he stepped onto its landing platform. The doors opened without command, as if it already knew why he had come. Inside, the corridors glowed faintly, golden veins pulsing through metallic walls. The same voice that had once spoken to him and Aeryn echoed faintly, ancient and calm. Welcome home, child of Earth. He walked to the central chamber, the same place where Aeryn had once stood, and placed his hand on the core. They're coming, he said softly, and they'll destroy everything you built if we don't stop them. The light responded to his touch, spreading outward in rippling waves. The voice returned. Then it is time to awaken the second guardian. He froze. Second guardian? The light condensed in front of him, and for a moment, he saw her again, Aeryn, standing in the same golden glow, smiling. But this time she wasn't alone. Another figure appeared beside her, taller, familiar. Him. His own reflection made of light. You cannot fight as one man, the voice said. You must become what humanity once was. Its protector, its memory, its hope. The chamber trembled as the arc systems came alive. Across the galaxy, ancient outposts reactivated, dormant ships stirred, and forgotten machines awakened beneath alien worlds. The Ark had summoned its fleet. As the invaders entered the edge of the system, they found themselves surrounded by thousands of colossal vessels, each one powered by the same golden light that pulsed from the Arkansas. Ethan stood at the command platform, his reflection shimmering in the glass. They wanted a god, he whispered, but they're going to see something better. When the first enemy ships opened fire, the Ark responded instantly. Beams of light shot across the void, not destroying, but disarming. Melting weapons, disabling engines, leaving ships adrift but alive. The invaders realized too late that they weren't fighting an army. They were facing a force that refused to kill. It didn't conquer, corrected. When the battle ended, silence filled the void once more. The hostile fleet drifted powerless, while the Ark pulsed with quiet light. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling her presence again. You did it, she whispered. No, we did, he replied. From that day on, humanity's legend changed again. They were no longer the destroyers, nor the saviors. They were the balance. The light that endured not because of perfection, but because of persistence. Aeryn's sacrifice became the foundation of that truth, and Ethan became the voice that carried it across the stars. Years later, when his hair had turned gray and the Artemis dawn had become a relic of the past, Ethan returned to Lasara one final time. The world below had healed completely. Oceans shimmered with light, cities floated among clouds, and laughter filled the air. Children, both human and Lyrian, played under the golden sky. He stood on the balcony overlooking the horizon, smiling faintly. "You were right," he said softly. "We endure." That night, as he looked up at the stars, the ark pulsed once more, and for the last time he heard her voice. "Rest now, Ethan. The light will take care of them." And as the golden glow spread across the heavens, the galaxy knew that humanity's legend, its courage, its compassion, and its unyielding will to protect life would never fade. It would burn quietly, eternally, in every heart and every star that dared to dream. If this story touched your soul, if it reminded you why humanity's spirit always rises from the ashes, then please like this video, share it with those who believe in hope beyond the stars, and subscribe for more cinematic HFY stories, where the light of humanity forever endures across the infinite night.